Welcome everyone to Onflow Media's NPL Victoria's review for round 3. And what a round it was. My name is Sivkarovski, and joining me once again is Stojanovski. Welcome, Alex. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for having me again. It's unfortunately not the coffee shop we wanted. I know you probably prefer cocktails, but nonetheless, we're here to talk about the weekend's NPL coverage.
I'm sure you enjoy a fruity cocktail or two. But yeah, let's kick things off. And another big round of football, round 3. Can't believe it's already into round 3. It's feels like we waited forever, and 3 rounds have already gone by. So let's kick things off. First game Friday night, not a jam-packed Friday night. Thank God for this time. But obviously, we start off with St Albans and Oakley Cannons. For me, Arts, this game was a hard game to call, as Dinamo do have the wood over the Cannons in their last 3 games. And the last time the Cannons beat Dinamo was in round 10, 2024. So we have to go back a few years in that one. So for me, Dinamo coming off a loss against Preston, Oakley coming from behind to win against Magic. And it started off really well for Dinamo, as Nicholas Koech scored in the second minute of the game. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the video of that. There's some
Mhm.
technical issues with Football Victoria. It looked like, as that goal had gone in, it looked like it was going to be 4 in a row for Dinamo. Again, there's too much class in that Oakley side, as Joe Guest scored just before half-time, which you would think that it made a big dagger into Dinamo's heart, as it was far too easy. It was a clumsy possession. I'm not sure if you've seen it. It's in the back line that allowed Joe Guest to just slot it home. Walk us through the first 45 from your point of view.
Yeah, look, probably recently good start. I was, I guess, in and out of that game, trying to watch both of them at the same time, which the other game covering on the Friday night, but. It was a good start for Dimnor. When they're at home, I told you they are very dangerous. They can go out there and grab and pinch a result. Yeah, look, I think a bit of a lapse of concentration. Passages of play where they know they could be better improved, better structured. I guess that equaliser from Joey Guest right before the break, I wouldn't say it was a dagger to the heart, but it was definitely a vote of confidence for the Oakley Cannon side. And in the second half, they just ran away with it in the end. I mean, Salmon, I think, scored in the 61st, and then you had Duratovic, who came on and he himself got on the score sheet. So, I mean, overall, I think I also had the Cannons on that game. And yeah, look, it's a disappointing result for St Albans Dinamo, and, definitely need to bounce back. And it's going to be tough, but it's in there. They have the arsenal, but just got to watch out what they're doing in the defensive half.
Yeah, through going down 3-1, so that's back-to-back losses for Dinamo, and the pressure starting to mount on Cam Watson and their side. They need to urgently pick up points. They got a big game against Altona Magic this weekend, which I'll be calling with Adam Palombi, and the Cannons have Melbourne City, so they'll be up for that. So 3 games in, how do you view Dinamo's performances over the first 3 games? Do you feel they've been a little bit unlucky, or probably when we sort of expected him to be?
Well, looking at their 3 games, they've played 2 of them at home. One was against Dandy City, which they drew 0-0. You probably after the first week, like, it's a draw. We could probably got the result. Both teams usually would be happy to take a point in most games. And then look, they played Preston Lions the week after, and then they've played Oakley. So, sides that obviously that are going to be finishing in the top half of the table. So yeah, a little bit of a worry start, but I know that, fixtures will come around, results will come as well. Teams will have to show up on the day. I've said that to Yarts. And each week, it's if you don't show up and you give away, a 50-50 or whatever on the field, if it doesn't go your way, you end up losing points. And we saw it with some other results this week. And with St Albans, it's probably one of those ones where they got to be patient, but they got to keep working on the training field and just stay confident in themselves and support each other. The team environment is very important. The coaching staff need to keep supporting the lads, and hopefully results will start coming too.
Yeah, got a big game against Magic, which we'll talk about a little bit later. I feel like another loss here for Dinamo, and they could be in that relegation battle. Oakley Cannons, again, looking very good. Probably unlucky on that opening day loss to Preston. I thought they should have taken that game out. They had more than enough chances to kill off the game in the first 30 minutes. Good wins last week and the week before, so they're looking quite good. Just a question of whether Alex Salmon can stay fit. If he can, I think him and Dratovic can link up really well with Joe Guest as well, just behind them. So they're looking good. They've got a big game against Melbourne City, so that will be interesting to see. So let's move along here. Second game Friday night was a 2025 Grand Final replay between Heidelberg hosting Dandy City, and most people would have thought that history was going to repeat itself with Burgers taking the win. But the Burgers are coming off back-to-back wins against and Dandy City also coming off a big 4-2 loss at home to Melbourne City. So not looking good for Dandy City. The last time Dandy City beat the Burgers in the league was round 18, 2021.
No,
So
it's quite a long time ago. It's
nearly
but
5 years
nonetheless,
ago. Yeah.
yeah, nonetheless they scrapped that part of the facts and then they rewrite it themselves. So it's a good win for them though.
Yeah, absolutely. Jamie Latham getting him off to a start just on the stroke of half time with a really good finish. And then Harry Ashcroft making his debut since coming across from Hughes City to make it 2-0. And then in the 69th minute, their defender Ben Collins scored to make it 2-1. So it was a big 20 minutes for Dandy City Arts. They were really under the pump. Heidelberg were pushing for an equaliser to at least make it a draw. But first loss in over 2 years at Heidelberg's home ground. That's a big loss, especially coming up to the Preston game that they're going to be away on. How do you see that game overall with and the Burgers so far this season?
Yeah, look, probably a bit disappointing. I guess a lot of the bookies would have had Heidelberg to win that game comfortably. But the thing is with Dandy City, I'd say provide these shock results. The funny thing with them is you expect them to win other games where you put them to win, they lose those, but then when you expect them to lose, they win. So it's a bit it's a bit of a funny one because you don't know how to predict when you're going against Dandy City. You don't know whether to call them to lose or to put them to win. So but look, end of the day, I think, yeah, Latham and you had Ashcroft in there pitching in 2 goals. I think nonetheless, overall performance, they'll probably take the 3 points. I mean, and then you go back to the training ground and work on what's going to be this week's current game coming into round 4. But I guess for the Burgers, it's a bit of a reset of mentality, really. I mean, they shouldn't be too worried about what's going on. They're a very good side. They have the quality arts, and I think this is more of a little bit of a bump on the journey to maybe another final this year, back to back potentially.
Yeah, I think the losses of Mo Adara and Jamal Ali are big losses for them, and also the loss of their forwards as well. It was unfortunate they just left. Abul Jawach just left before the season started, so obviously weren't able to recuperate. But look, I don't think it's going to be as easy or as it was last season. I think they'll probably cop another couple of losses along the way, but they'll definitely be in that contention. But big game against Preston. We'll talk about that later on. But Dandy City, as you mentioned, yeah, very inconsistent. You don't know what you're going to get. The game, like you said, exactly took the words out of my mouth. The games that they should win, they don't. The games they should lose, they win. They got a big game against Georgie's this Friday at home, so that's going to be interesting. So we'll talk about our picks later on, and we'll move to the first game on Saturday. So was a Hume City versus Bentley Greens, and the last time these two teams played each other was round 23, 2023. Hume coming off a big win last week against South Melbourne 2-1, while Bentley were also coming off a 2-0 win against Avondale. Both teams coming into their games with confidence, Arts, both 2 from 2. It was a tight first half, I thought. A majority attacking was done by Hume, and the closest to score, I thought. And Bentley, it's just their typical style. Only one shot, not one shot on goal. That's not one shot. That's That's kind of poor when you're in this league to not even have a shot on goal in 45 minutes, and it ended at halftime 0-0 before we returned for the second half, and we had to wait in the 65th minute as new signing Adusu Bayu scored to make it 1-0. And then not sure what the Michael Boffey was thinking, but in the 71st minute, second yellow card, and Bentley were down to 10 men. And Hume were trying to pepper the goals, but could not get a second goal and took all 3 points home. But good news is Bentley did get one shot on goal in the second half. So one shot on goal for the entire game. It's a pretty poor performance from Bentley. I know the red card didn't help him, but really, that's not really good enough for this league when you only get one shot off. And it's not as if Hume City are, flying high. They're, a bit inconsistent as well.
Not to pause yards, but I'm also looking at the dribble match center. I don't see the red card here, which is funny, but I see
It
a lot of
was there.
yellows.
It
It's
was there. Michael
it was
Boffey,
definitely a red, yeah.
yeah, he got a yellow in the first half, I think it was. And then in the second half, he got that second yellow with that. I think it was a handball. Um, I'm not sure what they were thinking. It was a bit of a mix-up between the two defenders. But
Yeah,
Hume, back-to-back wins, which is looking good for them. And
yeah.
then Bentley, well, they are back to square one with. I mean, it's not a big loss for them, but still, the performance is quite worrying.
It's not necessarily a massive worry. I mean, looking at the start of the season, look, Bentley are now 1-1 arts, and I think if you were asking the coaching staff if they'll take 4 points in 3 games, they probably would take it. And whereas Hume City, I actually told you last week as well, I felt like they were kind of that one performance away from building confidence, which is the win they got against South. So they got the win against South, and that's the reason why I kind of picked them to win against Bentley. And I know they're playing home, Hume City, but I think that's that type of confidence. I think they are a confidence club too. Like, when the team's playing well, they're quite a dangerous club. But when the results aren't going their way, that's when the worries start to, you get a bit deeper for me when it comes to Hume City, because you just don't know as well what to expect with them some weeks when they're not getting the results. In this game, a little bit different. I felt like they did outplay Bentley. They kept them very, very much close to, well, I would say less than a goal or half an XG. I think there was barely any opportunities for Bentley in that game, but that's credit to you. So, going into next week, let's just see how they go, because it's still early in the season. My thing is that they like to build that momentum. Let's see how they carry that going into ground 4, yeah? But look, end of the day, Bayu getting on the score sheet again, that's the type of player that loves his opportunities and takes them as at his will right now. So, if he continues this, you never know what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gully, Hume face Gully away and Bentley face South Melbourne. But I'm going to call you out on that. I don't think Bentley are playing good football. I know the results suggest 1-1 and 1. Against Georges, I didn't see anything that was a threat. I think they, again, played boring football. And that was round 1, and, no one wants to lose and whatever. But I didn't see anything there that was a threat. Probably got lucky with Avondale. I think got them at the right time. They were a shambles in the opening 2 games. And this game just proved that I think they're going to struggle for goals. Last season, they scored the least amount of I think it was the least amount of goals or in the top 6. But the defensive record was great, which is, look, fantastic, right? Defense wins you the leagues. But in this league, you need to score goals. No matter how well you defend. You look at Altona Magic last season, they were in the top 3 or 4, for defense, and unfortunately, they were just above the relegation. Bentley, I don't get excited watching him. I honestly think, it's Bentley playing. I'd rather do something else. Hey, look, time will tell. They face South Melbourne, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, I know it's early days, but yeah, I'm not too fancied on Bentley at the moment. We'll go to the second game, and this was a 6-pointer relegation battle between 2 teams that everyone would have tipped to be in their top 6. And that was between Avondale and Green Gully. Both yet to get a point on the board, and we're desperate to at least get a point or a win to get their season on track. Otherwise, the loser out of this one would possibly be looking at a relegation battle and a possible coach to be sacked. Was the talking points at the start of the round for this game. We'll talk a little bit about it Avondale yet to score a goal despite their forwards, and it was a pretty even first 30 minutes, I thought. Art says both teams had half chances to a full chance, but could not find it back of the net. And it wasn't until the 33rd minute that George Ott finally scored. And I think if you look at the replay, Art's sort of lifted a lot of pressure, like the weight of the world was on their shoulders, and the players, you just felt like they just relaxed a bit after that first goal.
I think it's more or less like they have the players in that team when the going gets tough. I said to you last week, Bruno Fornaroli, you know, I know he chipped in with 2 goals, but, these are the type of players that you have them at the club and they're gonna lift the other players around you, and Ott and Trajewski, got the first 2 goals, and you felt like after they got those first 2 goals, I feel like the weight off their shoulders kinda just lifted, and they started playing like the old Avondale, and this is what we were maybe expecting in round 1 and 2 Arts. Maybe this was the Avondale we wanted to see because, previous seasons suggested that this is the type of football that we're used to seeing. And, yes, they've lost players. They've got, reserves and players that could come in and do a job. But, that club, it's a historical club, Arts. Like the way they play football, it's a gift to watch sometimes, it's beautiful to see. And I mean, Fornaroli's free kick, I don't know if you got a chance to see that one. That was an absolute peach. And it was a good look. End of the day, from a Gully perspective, quickly forget this result, and you need to start thinking about next week. And that's the thing now for Gully. It's like, yes, they're on 3 losses in the row. Arts. It's still early in the season, and all they are is 1 win away from starting to turn that momentum in their way. Right? They need to start looking and saying to themselves, "Okay, we've lost the first 3 rounds, but we need to focus on the next 3 games that we come ahead." This week's game for them, very crucial to get back to winning ways. Potentially not even winning ways, Arts, but the first win of the season would be ideally what they need. But for Avondale, it's probably a momentum now. They're going to carry it into next week. 5 goals. They went from -4 goal difference to they're now on 1 goal difference. And most of the clubs in the league don't even have a positive goal difference at the moment. Besides, obviously, Preston. Everyone's pretty close at the moment. The only 2 teams that are undefeated right now is Preston and Caroline's Prince George for us.
Yeah, Gully we did have to make a change with Michael Weir coming off at halftime and Luka Romic coming on. But they got off to a good start. Trajewski scored in the 52nd minute. A new signing, Sete Murai, scored Avondale's third in the 73rd minute. And as you mentioned, Bruno Fornaroli scored in the 83rd minute. It was a brilliant move. He started off as well. And then, things got worse for Gully as Diego Cuba got sent off with his second yellow. And to rub further salt in the wounds, like you mentioned, that free kick from Bruno Fornaroli, wow. That just shows you the class. He might be, 38 years old, but he still has it. The magic is still there. So 5-0 in the end. So Avondale, like you mentioned, got their season back underway. They faced a tough away trip to Dandy Thunder, hoping make it back-to-back wins. Well, Gully, they face Hume City. So that's a big game for Green Gully because David Chick returning to his old team, and if they lose that game, they'll be 0-4. Now, there were rumors circulating Saturday that David Chick was sacked, and there were rumors, obviously, because nothing has been mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to ask a few people, and they weren't too... Gave me the no comments, so the pressure
Do
is
you
on
think it's
Green
too
Gully.
soon, though, Arts? Do you think maybe it's a bit too soon?
No, I don't think so. I think for Gully, they are in trouble. They've recruited.
What?
They've
But
recruited
where do you?
well.
Yeah.
But they can't afford to have another bad start. They had one last season. They haven't played finals football in 4 years. They got one of the best coaches going around. They've recruited really well. It's a bit unlucky, Yusuf Ahmed going down with a season-ending injury, which is the second year in a row they've had a player go, or maybe third year in a row they've had a player go down in the early rounds for a season-long injury, which does not help. But they are in trouble. If they lose to Hume, I think they are in trouble. They'll be 0-4. And I think questions need to be asked on David Chick, because it doesn't get any easier from here. The pressure intensifies with
I agree.
every game.
I agree. I agree with you. I think like questions definitely need to be asked. Whether I'm like going to start pressing the panic button yet, I wouldn't. I wouldn't personally. Not after 3 games. I
Well,
think if it's 5, 6 games in and we're still lost six straight, but that's you got to assess it game and week by week, right? So if they're playing and losing 5-0 every week, yes, panic buttons start getting pressed, right? But you know, most of the other games, they were in those games. So they're not far off,
the
but the
Heidelberg game,
results
they
keep
were. The Heidelberg game, I agree. They probably should have got a point out of that. The George Cross game, they were out of it in the first 45. Second 45 couldn't break them down. This game, out of it again. Here's the next couple of fixtures. So if they lose to Hume, and we're saying if, they got South Melbourne, round 4. Round 5, they face Bentley Greens.
okay. So the fixture list doesn't looks too bad. They've got I mean, they should be able to try and win those games there.
Round 6, they have. So they got round 6, they got Bentley. Round 7, they've got Altona Magic. So they could be 0-6 going into the Altona game. They
I
could be.
mean,
They could turn around.
realistically, I don't think they'll be. Look, I'm not going to predict them to be 0-6, but I think there's a fixture or two there that they can really prepare for and actually win and go out there with a bit of confidence. Look, I think, like I said, it's one of those weeks where they play really good, they get the 3 points. Even if they play bad and they get the 3 points, just get the 3 points, and it's going to turn the season around. Really, realistically.
Easier said than done. I mean, like I said, easier said than done. But I think they are in trouble because, like I said, they lose to Hume. They've got to face South Melbourne. Hard game. Bentley, they're rock solid in defence. Probably only positive about them. And then they face Magic. So they could, like I said, could be 0-6. Like you said, they could win the next 3. And people might say you guys are crazy, but big games coming up, but the pressure is on. I think Gully are under the pump, and David Chick and his coaching staff are under the pump to deliver. I think questions will be asked if they lose another game, but yeah, it's a big couple of weeks for them. We'll keep moving things along. Third game, this was a massive game. George Cross facing Dandy Thunder. George is coming off a big win in the Maltese Derby against Gully. So far conceded only no goals in 120 minutes of football. Dandy Thunder only coming off, only got a point out of their opening 2 games. Did come off a tough loss against Heidelberg. I thought they probably could have got a point out of that game, but from the outset, Utz, this game looked like it was Dandy Thunder that were going to run all over Georges because in the first half, Dandy Thunder were all over him. They just pinned them back. Georges were pretty much playing with 6 defenders at one stage with their wingers having to play wingbacks. And it wasn't until Maniac, who scored in the 18th minute, and credit got to be given to Maniac, it was an absolute rocket of a goal. I don't think you can't fault the keeper. You can't fault the defense. He hit it so sweet that it went in, and then finally Georges conceded a goal after 138 minutes. So it was a ripper goal. I'm not sure if you've seen that, Utz.
Oh, I did see it. I did. I was definitely on. I was watching it on the VPL or the NPL page. Sorry. And yeah, look, that goal was special. I mean, it's probably a goal that you will see in the top 5 goals at the end of the season, 4 goals of the season. I think it's one of those ones where he just hit it so cleanly, and it's just dispatched in the roof of the net, and the keeper had no hope, really. I mean,
No.
it's one of those ones where I think you take the balance of that game, Arts, Dandy Thunder probably would have thought they could have won that game. And me personally, I'm a little bit disappointed if I was a Dandy Thunder fan, even if I was just a spectator watching the game, I would be very disappointed with Dandy Thunder just because of they had so many opportunities in that game and they wasted so many chances. I think George Cross would be lucky to get 3 points in this game, just in terms of my own opinion. 3 points for them, they would be ecstatic about because I don't think they deserve to get the 3 points. I think if Dandy on their day score their opportunities, that's probably a draw. Maybe they win. Who knows? But credit to Vasiliadis and his men. They didn't give up at 1-0 down. They keep going. They reset the mentality. Spiteri and Matsis got in the goals when they needed to get them. And, Dandy chased in the second half. They just couldn't capitalize on the opportunities. And that, it's very disappointing at the end of the day for them. But George is now undefeated in 3.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Justin Spiteri scoring just before half time, which Adam Pittick, I think, will be disappointed. And then the second half, they came out better at it too. Leo Marzi scored to make it 2-1. And I felt Georgie's controlled the game in the second half. Probably unlucky not to get a third and kill off the game, but Georgie's back-to-back wins. More importantly, top of the table with a big game away to Dandy City while Dandy Thunder hosts Avondale. So far, I think Dandy Thunder probably a bit unlucky this season. Feel like they probably could have had a lot more points. I don't think the results have gone their way. Probably a bit unlucky, like you mentioned. Georgies just keep grinding the wins away, and as Eric Vasiliadis says, it's take a step forward and push on. And his team have done that. Now the hunters have become the hunted.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you don't know where to turn up. You don't know what to expect. Oh, look, I'm glad to see what's been happening thus far. Yeah, and a lot of fixtures to come now, and this weekend there's a lot of good games to watch. So we'll see what happens, I suppose.
Yeah, there's a big games coming up, and both sides looking. Can Georges make it 3 in a row, and can Thunder get their season back on track? The fourth game of the night was between Altona Magic and South Melbourne. Magic are coming off a tough loss against Oakley the week prior. We're looking to get back to winning ways. But the problem was with this game was we didn't know which South Melbourne side we're going to get, Arts, because 24 hours earlier, they were playing an OFC game, which they won, credit to them, but no one knew what the lineups for South Melbourne would be. And that's why I think most people would have picked Altona Magic to be favourites. But once again, Sinisa Kaladzic is just showing, he's is a coach that, really understands what he needs to do for, 2 games in 24 hours. I don't think many teams could do that, but they got off to a good start. The Magic, Amain Sordo scored a penalty in the 24th minute, and they held it on to the half time. But look, they couldn't have started the worst second half, Arts, with Liramel Marzi getting a second yellow card just after half time and getting sent off. And that's where I think the game turned.
Yeah,
Rahul Bernarda scored in the 60th minute to make it 1-1, and 2 minutes later he scored again to make it 2-1 in the end. So, look, a spirited performance for Altona Magic. Condolences to Goran Lozanovski and his family with the passing of his mother. But, yeah, look, they've had a lot of spirited performances. Unfortunately, they're not being turned into wins, and that's what I think is struggling for Magic last season and this season. They really need to, those games where they're in the lead or, it's a draw, they really need to kill them off, and I don't think they could have done that in this game. The red card didn't help, obviously.
yeah, it was probably the key turning point in the game. I guess South Melbourne, following it up with another game from the OFC. But I think, at the end of the day, it's one of those ones where the South Melbourne coach made the right changes at the right time. Bernarda comes on, makes the impact. I mean, yeah, the red card, but I mean, generally it turns the game, but it doesn't mean the game's over. 10 men. I feel like it's a false, kind of, I don't know. Like sometimes it plays out. You got to see how it plays out. Some teams surprisingly do well with 10 men, and teams that play against 10 men also sometimes don't even know how to break them down. But the main thing for them is, they responded in the right fashion. South Melbourne, I think I predicted them to win us, I think from memory, against Altona Magic. And look, they made it hard on the day, being a goal down. They're giving the penalty away. Sordo, who transferred across from North Sunshine Eagles last season to obviously the Magic this season, gets his first for the campaign. Great to see, Dale. Did you send me a quick message just to congratulate him? It was a well dispatched penalty. But look, at the end of the day, we both said it, Arts. It's when you go a goal up, it is a disappointing one to kind of lose the points. And same, I think it was the same thing last week where they played. Who they play last week? I'm just trying to
Oakley.
remember. It was Oakley, and I think they had a similar scenario where I think they got the first goal right, and
Yep.
then they again just gave up that lead and that ascendancy. Yeah, look, probably something I would consider them to just be mindful of at this point in the season. And they just need to be sure that when they are leading in the games, they still need to try and keep their concentration levels at the maximum ability as possible. Players need to be wary of not getting sending offs as well, because obviously the sending off was the biggest turning point. But look, overall, I think South Melbourne probably just edged it at that point in the time in the game. Bernarda double, Arts, nothing else to be said.
Yeah, look, I think last week they were a bit unlucky against Oakley because they did have a disallowed goal for handball, which looking back it wasn't. But yeah, South Melbourne just had that little bit extra. So South, they'll face Bentley at home, while the Magic have a big game against Dinamo. So that'll be interesting to see how that game goes. And we move into the final game of the round, which I think everyone was looking forward to, between Melbourne City facing Preston Lions. This had cinema all over it, as the meme goes. Both sides playing good football. Melbourne City coming off a big win last week, 4-2 against Sandy City, while Preston won, as you mentioned, 3-0 over Dinamo. But the talking point of this game was in the 27th when Beshian Kutleshi really, to describe that, it was an ugly foul. Look, anywhere else on the pitch, Arts, I have no problems with that foul. Normal foul, you guys bumping into each other. But he knew what he was doing, and he smashed the player into the Preston bench. And look, I think he deserves whatever suspension he gets. But there's two things that come out of this game. One, he'll get the suspension, so he'll get a couple of weeks for it. Two, Melbourne City, that ground is just, I don't think it's fit for football. Everyone's complaining. I've read all the comments online on why the coach is sitting there. You need to understand, the coaches are in the designated area. So that is designated by the ground and whoever, does the markings. If it's too close to the ground, that means that ground is not right for NPL football. Simple as that. There's not enough runoff. There's not enough space. Now, I'm not sure where you want the coaches to sit, behind the fence or wherever it is, but they need to make adjustments for that ground, because it's not, I don't think it is. Now, whether they can pull the coaches back a little bit more and they're sitting, where the benches are, maybe that's the case. I don't know. But it was an ugly challenge. Despite the rumours, there was no coach from Preston's side who was choking a player. So I like to make that clear.
I watched that back a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I did hear the commentators mention that a player was, like, one of the coaches from Preston grabbed the player, which
It wasn't.
I didn't see any vision of that at all.
Look, yeah, to be fair
incorrect
to the commentators, they did say that in the second half, they corrected themselves. So credit to both commentators. But it was an ugly challenge. It wasn't needed. The game was, it was a very good game up until that point. I felt that Melbourne City were in it. They had a couple of chances to really go ahead early, but that's the inexperience of the youngsters there. And he's been part of the City system. He's played A-League game here and there, but it was a terrible place to do that foul. Like I said, anywhere else it happens, no problems.
I 100% agree with you. I think obviously the player on the day was Suto for Preston Lions, who was just completely battered into, it looked like an iPad or something else. It was something that was just sitting on it was like on a stand, and essentially just went like pretty much face first into it. And I mean, you guys will probably have to watch it online, and I would love to hear back from obviously the guys today, everyone who is watching, to give your opinion on it. I did read through some of the Facebook posts, and I think players or people wanted to see a longer ban for it. Look, I think Kutleshi as well. He's a young fella. You learn it and rectify these behavioural issues on the pitch, and you focus on your football, and that's the main thing I would say to him. And to completely forget what's just happened. Obviously, you can apologise, and people can say what they want to say, but at the end of the day, you want to get back to playing football, and that's the main thing that should be prioritised by Kutleshi here. Regardless, like you said, if it happened on the field, or like in the middle of the field or not, I think like now it's done, and you need to really forget about it and focus on what's on hand next. I think in terms of obviously the game itself, that was probably the shadow of it. The bit of a cloudy moment in the game. But besides that, it was actually quite a close fixture. There was a lot of opportunities on Melbourne City in the first half. And what I would like to describe it as almost a first half meltdown, Arts, because it was Aiden Bryce who got the goal in the 45th minute from a corner. headed it back across goal. Beautiful header, by the way. And then a needless penalty. So within like 4 minutes, there was obviously added time because of the incident, right? But to concede 2 goals in that short space in time, it almost just set them back completely. And yeah, I mean, at the end, it was a goal, I think, towards right at the end of the 89th minute or something. Yeah, 89th minute,
Yep.
Stefan Zini came on
Yep.
and he got himself on the score sheet. It was set up by Jonas Markovsky, I believe, on it. He took the ball down the right-hand side, was able to get past the Melbourne City defender and then found Zinni as well. So, look, overall, Preston, again, 3-0 win. Probably I wouldn't have picked them to win 3-0. That's probably maybe a 1 goal or 2 goals max. But, look, man, it's another win for the Preston Lions. As you can see, I'm wearing the jersey out. So it's been a good start for the season for the Lions, and Melbourne City, on the other hand, they'll have to bounce back. And they'll have to do that with, obviously, Kudleshi not being in the side. Hopefully, we'll find out more news, obviously, how long the suspension will be.
Yep, should be, I think, in tonight or tomorrow. So Preston secured the third straight win. So they've already cleared their 6-point deduction. And they're looking like a formidable side, and they're just warming up, I believe. I think they're going to get better as the season goes along. They've got a big game against Heidelberg. I think that's going to be match of the round this weekend, and Melbourne City face Oakley Cannons. Yeah, big round 3 there. So any surprising results for you?
I don't like the only main one I would say is obviously Heidelberg losing at home against Dandy City. So that, I mean, yeah, I would pick that for obviously the result that I would really have shocked me. The other ones, not so much. I think
So you
um,
expected Avondale to win 5-0, did you?
I didn't. Oh, maybe not 5-0, but I did expect them to win. I had a feeling they would get the win over Gully, but 5-0. Yeah, look, that's probably a bit of a battering if in the end. But look, besides those 2 games, I think generally the results were pretty close. But yeah, look, I actually thought Dandy Thunder were going to get a draw at a minimum against George Cross. I think from memory, I predicted that to be a draw. But besides that, I think most of my predictions were pretty close. All correct.
So yeah, I had the Avondale game. I think that just shocked everybody. I don't think it was going to be 5. I had Gully to win, so just goes to show you we all get it wrong. But we'll move along to VPL1, and the Chaos League did not disappoint once again. Starting off Friday night, Northcote 3, Langwarrin 1. Northcote 3 out of 3. What a big win. Alan Webb scoring for Langy in the 33rd minute, but Thierry Swaby and Casper Hallam scoring in the 35th and 45th minute to give them the lead. Giorgio Sedenis made it 3-1 in the end, but big result, Northcote. 3 from 3.
Yeah,
Not many people would have expected him to be 3 from 3. Most people would have expected him to struggle, but the Tasmanian coach and his Tasmanian players has lived up to the hype.
I mean, early start. I mean, perfect start for them from three outs, but still early days. I think we'll see in the next few game weeks. I think we'll see how they actually pan out. Look, for this game, I thought it was a bit of a write-off after getting that. It was Noah Holmes who got sent off
Yeah.
in the 13th minute. It's a bit of a shock goal from Alan Webb to give him the lead with 10 men, and then after that it was kind of ascendancy Northcote. They get the first goal through, like you said, Suave, and Hallam got the goal just before the break, and you thought from there they'll just cruise control. There wasn't really any big threat being up, especially with them having to be a man down, the Langwarrin boys. But Sir Dennis, I believe he transferred across from Preston to Northcote City, and obviously he's trying to make his hand in getting them up into the top division odds. And you know what, they're really producing that right now, 3 from 3. And it sets up a mouth-watering clash in the next round between Northcote City and North Geelong Warriors.
Yeah, both undefeated, so that's going to be a big, big game. That's going to be interesting. But Langy facing Manningham, and we'll talk about them shortly. But yeah, big, big game next week between Northcote and North Geelong Warriors. Kicking up the second game, Brunswick City still looking for their first win, face fellow relegation battlers Port Melbourne. This is another 6-point relegation battle, but it was Brunswick City taking all 3 points with a massive 5-0 win to secure their first points of the season thanks to goals from Trent Sivkkaaa on the spot on the 21st minute, Lissandro Paz on the 25th, goal scoring machine Dylan Allshawn on the 33rd, and Sivkkaaa made it 4-0 in the 82nd, and Austin Wong just capped off a 5-star performance, scoring in the 91st minute. So Port suffer their third straight loss in a row, and I think the writing is on the wall already, and I think Port are going to be looking at a double relegation from
Yeah,
they do not look too good. They have lost,
they
I
don't.
think it was -9, I think that is.
Yeah, it's a very, very big worry. I mean, going forward, they look a bit lackluster defensively. They've got gaping holes. Anyone who's probably versing Port Melbourne Sharks will be licking their lips. It feels like wounds and bandages having to be put on every player at this point, Arts, because how do you recover after losing 3 games in a row, but just losing them in convincible fashion? I just think they're well off the pace at the moment. And like what, and then the next question would be asked is what direction is the club gonna, what is the next direction they're gonna take? Because if you continue in this fashion, you are guaranteeing yourself relegation into VPL2. They need to work towards a project of a recovery, whether it's, getting up juniors, training them up, getting them ready for next season, or whatever the plan is. It needs to be done really soon because this is a big, big worry for Port Melbourne. Once a big club in last season in the NPL,
Well, if you
probably see themselves in VPL2 now.
Yeah, we were looking at it. They were, finishing second, playing finals football a few seasons ago, and now they're dead last in VPL1 and not looking pretty. I mean, opening game 3-0 loss to Brunswick Juventus, a close game against Bulleen 2-1, but 5-0 against a side that hasn't won a game this season's a massive, massive result. But not going to get any easier at all as Brunswick are away to Eltham and Port Melbourne host Western United. Poor Melbourne, their fate could be sealed by next week, but we'll talk about Western United's game. Kicking off the second game of Friday night, Brunswick Juventus hosting Melbourne Victory, and it was Brunswick getting off to a good start via penalty from Lewis Skillboy in the 9th minute. This game, I don't think the score reflected the game, to be honest. I think Besa Barisha and his Chargers will be disappointed that they didn't get at least a point or a win out of this, because in the first half, it was all Melbourne Victory, and they just could not find a goal at all. They tried everything. After the break, Austin Giannino made it 2-0 in the 50th minute, and then Mickey Gossani scored in the 70th. Brunswick, though, he were running on empty because they had only one sub left. There was about 3 or 4 players that were limping around. They made their 4 earlier subs earlier on because players were injured. They just had nothing left, and by the end of it, they were pretty much limping to the finishing line. Good result for Brunswick after they lost from Eltham last week, but this was a very close game. 2-1, I think they're probably very lucky to not to be 2-2 or at least a bigger margin. How did you see it?
Yeah, I'd say you mentioned that Besa Barisha tried everything, but I think he almost should have just put on the boots himself and just got back on the field. I think at that point. Would
Look,
have been lovely.
he didn't look too happy after the game when the players were having a meal. I was near him, and let's just say I didn't ask for an autograph, but yeah, it didn't look too happy at all.
Yeah, nah, look, you're going to have nights where things don't go your way. Players, we saw it in the Dandy Thunder game. Players were missing opportunities and good ones at it. But look, it is disappointing. But look, early in the season, still that's in the VPL1, and we know you picked Victory to come back up. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this year. And then you coming up against a fellow, the Brunswick Juventus, club that you would say that they could push for a top 6 finish. Definitely. Look, we'll see kind of where they're at in the next few weeks. Are they going to be real contenders to win the league? Are they going to be sitting in the top 2 looking for the automatic promotion? Or are they going to be fighting for that, I guess, that playoff hunt to go all the way and find themselves into NPL next season? So, we're talking about them losing. I think did they play Eltham last week?
Yeah.
And Currently, obviously, I'm just having a quick look at it. Eltham are playing at the moment with
Yep,
Bulleen,
1-0.
almost half time in that game, Arts, and Eltham actually already got a goal in that game in the first minute. So look,
Yeah.
there, Eltham Redbacks, you've seen the story, Arts. It's remarkable, remarkable what they could achieve. But look, Brunswick Juventus for me, overall, I'm very happy with their progression so far. I think they've been playing some really exciting football. A game where they could have gone either way, but they were on top in the end. And I think the team will take that confidence into next week. I think that they'll have some setbacks during the season, but I think the main thing with the Brunswick Juventus club is that the fans are always behind them. They have the juniors always cheering them on. They have the music in the background there. It's at halftime. I always enjoy going down there to Brunswick Juventus, and it's a club that I think deserves to find themselves back into the Victorian Premier, the National Premier League of Victoria. We'll see what happens, obviously, but as times tell, Victory will probably fight themselves and work their way back into this season as well. So it's still up for contention.
Yeah, Victory face Bulleen on Monday night. But it's the exciting game for me next week will be Brunswick Juventus hosting Melbourne Knights. Former coach Mick Calandrella coming back to the team that he got promoted into VPL1. It'll be interesting to see what type of reception he will receive, whether it will be a warm welcome or a cold one. Time will tell, but that's going to be, I think, for me, the match of the round there. So we'll move it along. Fourth game Friday night, Melbourne Knights, speaking of, face North Sunshine Eagles, and
Yep.
Knights are coming off a big 3-1 win against Melbourne Victory, whilst North Sunshine are coming off a 7-goal thriller. Unfortunately, it was a loss to North Geelong Warriors. Real tight affair in this one. It was pretty even. It wasn't until the 52nd minute where Khan Ali Bowl scored to give North Sunshine the lead, but 5 minutes later, Darcy Anastovsky scored the equaliser for the Knights, and then Michael Suski scored 4 minutes later to give him the lead. But credit to North Sunshine, they didn't give up. They tried everything to break down the Knights' defence, but couldn't break him down. In the end, Knights winning 2-1. Tough game. I think probably North Sunshine probably deserved the point in that one.
Probably. Look, that game also went a bit 50-50 outs. I think, for the North Sunshine Eagles, they actually got on the front foot in that game in the second half. Obviously, Ali Bolt got on the score sheet in the 52nd minute. And you thought from that point, when they got the goal, you would think that they probably would have sat back a little bit, try to soak up at least 10-15 minutes of pressure, and just try and defend and keep that really tight in the back. But, Melbourne Knights, Anastovsky and Suski. Suski actually beautiful finish, by the way, and it was just a great turnaround from the Knights. I thought, like that space of like 4 or 5 minutes, they just turned it on, and it was hard for North Sunshine just to kind of repel defensively at that point in that game where you felt as soon as they got that first goal, the Knights they just took a bit of control of the game and they got the win. I did predict them to win. I knew it was going to be a close one though. So you never know with these clubs because they both are playing for that promotion, Arts. And not, obviously the Knights went down from NPL Vic to VPL1, and they really want that spot back, Artsy. And you never know with these Croatian clubs. They produce some good talent, and you can see it on display when they play every week, don't they, Arts?
Yeah, look, it's. I don't think it's going to be this. If they do get promoted, I don't think it's going to be the same squad. I don't think that squad's probably good enough for the top tier Victorian football. Time will tell. I think they've got a good squad for VPL1. Look, there's still a long season to go. Look, they're looking quite good. It's a big test is this Friday against Brunswick Juventus. We'll see how that goes. For the North Sunshine, they've got a tough away trip to Melbourne, Serbia. So that's going to be another big, massive game. And I feel
Yes.
like, um, you know, that's going to be another game to really watch. It's going to be so many good games this weekend. Hopefully they can stream that game.
I can actually share that news with you. Arts. That game will be streamed, Melbourne Serbia versus North Sunshine Eagles, and you wouldn't pick who the commentator is going to be. Arts. It's going to be myself. I did get the news today. So, yeah, the game is going to be at Kevin Bartlett Reserve. So Serbia playing at home against the Eagles. So much to play for. Obviously, the clubs itself, obviously the Serbian, nationality, and you've got, the Albanian culture. It is a big one. Like, it's a big derby if you look at it that way, Arts. But there's so much to be playing for in that game as well, because Melbourne Serbia have lost every game thus far this season, whereas North Sunshine, they're 1 from 3, be shaky, but anything to play for here. You don't know. Melbourne Serbia last season against North Sunshine, they played up some real close ones, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again.
Look, if Melbourne Serbia we'll talk about it a bit later, if they do pull that off, a big party there. It's actually a fantastic night if you do get down to Kevin Butler Reserve. I might come down after the Tono Magic game, but we'll see how we go. We'll move things along. The sole game on Saturday. Oh, what a game this was. North Geelong Warriors were facing Melbourne Serbia. So North Geelong coming into this one with back-to-back wins, facing off a side with back-to-back losses. It's a tough away trip up the Geelong Highway. Not many teams managed to get a point, let alone a win. But again, it's the away teams getting that early goal via Jack Hindle in the 18th minute to give him the lead. But after the halftime break, Anthony Banavac scored in the 53rd minute. But both sides, again, having plenty of chances. It wasn't until the 71st minute where Sonny Brimmer popped up and got the lead. So North Geelong looking good for another promotion, 3 from 3 in opening games. Could they return to the top tier Victorian football? Whereas Melbourne Serbia, you mentioned 3 straight losses. Very similar to last year where they had a couple of draws and losses in opening couple of games. So big result for North Geelong in that one.
Yeah, it was. And again, Bonavark, back-to-back weeks where he scores, and then you've got Sonny Brimmer, that is top goal scorer last season in the VPL too, comes in. He's been playing off the bench. I don't know if that's for whatever reason. It's maybe a late preseason start. I haven't really looked into that one too much, but he's definitely making himself an impact off the bench. He's also gone back-to-back weeks on the goal-scoring charts, and with this club, you just never know. You
Yeah.
just never know. Actually, you can sense like something's building and brewing at North Geelong Warriors, especially after how they started last season to ending the season champions. And it's like they're carrying that into this season, and it's kind of scary. Like, obviously, I want to see what happens against the Northcote City game, and if they can somehow win that, God, you'd be definitely calling them for a top 2 finish this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they're probably the most one of the most experienced team. They went from the top tier to VPL1 to VPL2, now back up to VPL1. So, as you mentioned, big game for them. They're facing undefeated Northcote next week, which will be a good game. Well, we mentioned FC Melbourne Serbia face Northside Eagles, and the sole game on Sunday was Western United facing Manningham United. This game was again unpredictable. Many would have had Manningham as favourites, but a twist that no one saw in this game. Western United leading 3-0 within the first 15 minutes with Mark Leonard scoring a double and Anderson Beck. It didn't stop there as Manningham pulling one back in the 22nd minute through Yanni Panakos. Halftime came, and I think both sides would have wanted to stay out because it was a thrilling game,
Crazy game.
3-1. Yeah, but after halftime, Western United got their 4th in the 59th minute from Ali Al-Sheikh, and a minute later, Christian Mladenis scored for Manningham to make it 4-2, and you thought, could it be a comeback? But Western United in the 75th and 77th minute made it a double through Alex Mamura and Marcus Tavalaro to make it 6-2. But in the 90th minute, Yanni Panakos popped up again to make it 6-3. But this was a surprising result. I
It's a
thought the
weird
game,
one.
yeah, I thought it would be
Yeah,
a closer game, but 6-3. When I seen the
a
alerts
lot of
coming
goals.
through my phone, I thought, what's going on here?
I
Interesting.
It was shocked too. I can't believe how many goals. I think I was kind of just looking that on the apps just to see what was going on. And when I saw 3-0 in the first 15 minutes, I go, whoa, what's going on here? A bit of a shock start for the game. And then, I guess they steadied themselves a little bit coming towards the break. 3-1, disappointing start, but they got a goal back. And you thought, yeah, anything's possible, with Manningham. I mean, you look at the 3 games in, they've scored 9 and conceded 9 uts. Oh, that is unheard of. Unbelievable game, Uts. 6 goals to 3, 9 goals scored, 9 goals conceded in the first 3 games for Manningham United. I'm almost in shock to say, like, what a game that was, even to cover 6-3, 9 goals in a game in itself is quite a lot of highlights, and whoever's making that highlight reel, or video arts, is they're gonna have a nice little job to do there because plenty to go through. But Western United, positive start, man. Like, I mean, I know they lost their game. It was last week. I think they lost to Northcote City 4-1, and you thought, "Ooh, not the greatest," but then they won against Melbourne Serbia 1-0, and then they go and win 6-3 against Manningham. You just think to yourself, okay, well, they're definitely in this league and they can do some damage. So you never know. So it's a tough one to pick, the VPL1. It's like you said, it's a chaos league for a reason.
Well, most people would have had Western United relegation battlers, but interesting. The coach for Manningham, Nick Marinos, got sent off in a 62nd minute. So they were already down 5-2 by then, so I don't think and made.
Yeah, it wouldn't have
Sorry,
made
they
a
were down
difference.
4-2 when that occurred, so I don't think it was a big difference. But yeah, look, Western United still chugging along. They are obviously going through, and the other game. Well, we are talking. It's playing live. It's Eltham Redbacks leading 2-0 against,
That's a break, yeah.
yeah, at the halftime break there. So that's a big result if it stays away. And look, Bully Lions, they are not looking as well as people would have thought.
Yeah. They scraped the result against Port Melbourne 2-1, and now
Yeah.
struggling at the moment. Worrying signs, definitely, but still second half to play. I'm sure they'll gear up for it and try to find a way back. They've got the home support there on a Monday at the Venator Club, so hopefully they make their way out of the casino there. It's all the pokies, and they go support the boys. Yeah,
Yep. So looking at the standings in VPL1, so Northcote, top of the table on 3 from 3. We got North Geelong Warriors in second as well on 3 from 3. Only difference is goal difference there. And Northcote up by 4. Alphen Redbacks, if it stays the way it is, they're sitting in third place on 6 points. Brunswick Juventus on 6 points. Melbourne Knights on 6 points. Western United on 6. Manningham United on 6. Brunswick City in 8th on 3 points. North Sunshine on 9th on 3 points. Lang Warren in 10th on 3 points. Melbourne Victory 11th on 3 points. Bulleen Lions, if they stays the same, on 12th on 3 points. FC Melbourne Serbia, no points. And Port Melbourne dead last with no points. So we'll look at next week's games. Your tips, Port Melbourne versus Western United. How do you see that one?
look, I'll probably be just straight off, just off the bat, Western United. I don't think there's much to talk about on that one because I just think too much struggles and worries for Port Melbourne at the moment, and Western United on a high after scoring 6 at home. I hope not to say another 6-goal win, but hopefully, it's a little bit of a closer game and a good watch for those who are going to go out there and watch it.
I'm going 5-0 Western United. I think
Fair enough,
I don't
that's
I don't see any hope unless, look, I don't want to say it, but it's 5-0. I don't think.
all right.
Next game on Friday night, or a big game, Brunswick Juventus, Melbourne Knights. I'll let you go first.
I'm going to draw. I'm going to go 1-1.
1-1. I think there's going to be goals in this game. I'm going to go Brunswick 3.
And a red card for Calandrella or not?
Oh, look, I think there's going to be a red card. Either coaching staff or a player, but I think this one, it's going to be a card happy game, and I think, look, you might see, look, plus 1.5 for red cards.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah. The next game after that, 2 undefeated teams, Northcote versus North Geelong Warriors. I think this is a hard one to pick.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. That one's a 50-50 for me. Look, I'm gonna tip towards North Geelong Warriors. I think that I think that their bench is very very much damaging, and if Sonny Brimmer comes off the bench and he impacts the way he is, I just think that there's more trouble going forward, and to deal with Northcote City, that might be their biggest problem in that game. We'll see. I don't know. I'm gonna tip. I'm gonna tip North Geelong. I just have this gut feeling they're gonna win that one.
I'm going to go Northcote 2-1. Alfred Redbacks versus Brunswick City. I'll go Brunswick
Oh, yeah, I was going to say Eltham 2-1. I feel like it will be a close game there.
We got Manningham versus Lang Warren. How do you see that one?
Should be straightforward. That one should be straightforward. I don't think Lang Warren will trouble Manningham, but defensive frailties will be the biggest highlight this week. So they need to go back to the training ground, just work on those. Conceding 6 is always a big worry for me, Arts, and as long as they can set up shop and not concede, they should be able to win that game comfortably. I'll go 2-0.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Manningham will take that one out. I'll go 3-1. In the fiery clash, another one, FC Melbourne Serbia versus North Sunshine. I'm going to go, there's going to be 2 red cards in this one.
I knew you were
And
going
I
to call
think,
Reds first.
and I'm going to go 1-1.
1-1. Interesting. Yeah, I'm tended to go for a Melbourne Serbia win. I think at home they might actually try and ruffle a few feathers with North Sunshine. North Sunshine now back-to-back losses, and Melbourne Serbia know that this could be their game where they can win at home in front of their crowd, who will probably spur them on. By all means, not saying North Sunshine don't have a chance, Uts. We know that they're very dangerous as well, but I do think it'll be a 2-1 win for Melbourne Serbia.
Big call. And the last game, Friday night, Melbourne Victory versus Bulleen Lions. I'm going to go Melbourne Victory. I think it's going to be a 2-1 victory.
Yeah, I think Melbourne Victory should be too good. I'm going to go 2-0 though, Uts. And best up Barisha not to get sent off.
Look, he's going to bite his tongue on that one, I think. Let's have a look. We'll look at also the
NPL
NPL.
VPL. Yeah,
Let's
Friday
have a
night.
look at that one.
I can kick that
Just
off for
bring
you,
it.
Uts. I've got it in front of me. Green Gully, Friday night at 7:30 against Hume City. Look, I think this one's actually going to be a tougher game. I'm going to go draw, Uts. I'm going to go 1-1.
Let's start again. We'll do the table and then you can do your tips. So
Go for it.
3, 2, 1. So look at NPL Victoria. Caroline George Cross in first on 7 points. Oakley second on 6 points. South Melbourne third on 6 points. Heidelberg fourth on 6 points. Hume City fifth on 6 points. Bentley in sixth on 4 points. Melbourne City in seventh on 4. Preston Lions eighth on 3 points. Avondale ninth on 3 points. Altona 10th on 3 points. Dandenong Thunder 11th on 1 point. St Albans 12th on 1 point. Dandy City on 0 points. And Green Gully on dead last with 0 points. And let's look at the matches. Arts, you start off with Green Gully and Hume City.
Yeah. So that one's going to be played at Green Gully Reserve on the Friday night at 7:30 Uts under the lights. So, yeah, with me, I thought that one would probably be a draw. I was thinking 1-1 in that game. I think both teams will go try and win that game, but I just have this weird feeling that that game's going to have a draw written all over it.
I'm going to go Hume City 1-0. Second game, Dandy City versus George Cross. How do you see that one?
That's a tough one because Dandy City are playing at home. You know what? I'm going to continue going with draws, Art, so hopefully I can get one of them, huh? So, but I think there's going to be goals in this game. I think 2-2 though. I think there's going to be more than 2 goals.
I'm going to go for George Cross 2-1. I
Ooh.
think they're going to strap themselves in. I think Dandy City just unpredictable with their home form, so it'll be interesting to see. So I think George Cross 2-1 for me. Next game on Saturday, Altona versus St Albans. Look, I'm going to go stick my neck out. I think Altona probably be a draw on this one. I'm going to go 1-1.
Okay, you going for a draw here? Look, I don't think there's a draw in this game. I think there's going to be a winner. I definitely think Altona Magic at home at Paisley Park. They were a bit unlucky last week, and I think this time they'll rectify those results and win 2-0 against St Albans Dinamo.
Yep. Next game is Dandy Thunder versus Avondale at Dandy's ground. It's going to be a tough game. I'm going to go Dandy Thunder.
Dandy Thunder 2-1. So, I mean, that's an interesting one. It's George Andrews Reserve, obviously, Dandy Thunder, that Saturday night game under the lights. I do think that that's where they love to play at, and I don't know. It's just that it's a tough one for me. I do think that Dandy Thunder are due a win. That's the only thing, and I think Avondale will be close and in that game. So I think we'll go Dandy Thunder, but I'm going to go 2-1.
Next game is South Melbourne versus Bentley. I'm going to go South on this one. I think they'll take it out 2-0.
Comfortable. Yeah, I was going to say I feel like this one should be a comfortable one for South. I also will probably go for a 2-0 Arts. I think that will be a safe prediction for me.
Next game is the big clash, Preston Lions versus Heidelberg at Preston's ground, Genesis Steel Stadium. I'm going to go Preston Lions are going to win this, I think, 2-1.
2-1. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough call, that one. I definitely think that there's going to be goals, hopefully not red cards. We want the game to be clean and a good watch. Uh, and players not flying into tablets, hopefully this time. But look, I am gonna tip Preston to win this one. I'm gonna go for a 3-2 win though.
Very big call. And the final game of the round is Oakley Cannons away to Melbourne City. I think Oakley will do this one. They'll probably beat them.
You reckon 3-2? Okay. On the road again. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know. Melbourne City, to start the season, they've been very, very unpredictable. Like they've been doing really good in games where you probably expected them not to get a result. I think this game they will get a result. So I'm going to go for a win. I'm going to go Melbourne City 1-0.
Big call there.
Maybe
So
the shock of the round. We haven't called a shock yet, so this is my shock of the round. There you go.
big call there. So interesting to see how they go. Well, so far 3 rounds in, has there been a team in either NPL or VPL1 that's surprised you?
A team that has surprised me. It's a good question, Arts. I think George Cross. I think George Cross would be my pick of the bunch if I'm going to choose a club that have surprised me so far. Obviously, they're undefeated at the moment, and they're at the top of the tree. I didn't predict them obviously to finish in the top 6. I think I had them just out of the 6. But if they're playing the way they do, I definitely do see them finishing in the top 6. And I guess it's a matter of time, but we'll soon find out if they can face that challenge at Dandy City this weekend.
Yeah, for me, it's Green Gully, actually. I'm surprised they haven't won a game after 3 rounds. I don't know what's going on. So for me, it's them. Look, I hope they turn it
I can
around.
tell you something, Utz. I can tell you one thing for sure that hasn't surprised you. Port Melbourne Sharks, yeah? Bottom
Well,
of
that's for VPL1. I don't think Port Melbourne surprised me. It's Northcote that have surprised me. Undefeated. Port Melbourne, I knew with the signings they had, they weren't going to be. I think they were going to be a bottom 3 team. But I think Port Melbourne's not a surprise. I think Northcote is a surprise to go 3 from 3. Especially for a coach in a new league with players from Tasmania. But look, hey, he's proving everyone wrong, and hopefully for his sake it continues. But a player in NPL that's surprised you?
Ooh, that's a good question, Utz. I haven't really thought too much about that actually. I'm gonna go with. Ooh, you know what? I've got one. Who do you think? But who do you think I'm gonna say?
It's going to be a Preston player.
Yeah, Jason Romero for me. Jason Romero.
Is it a surprise though? I mean, he's a quality footballer, played in in the US.
You know what? You know what it is, Utz? What he does continues to surprise me. That's the thing I love about him. He just keeps pulling stuff out of the rabbit hole, and I just surprised about how he can just produce such brilliance on the field. But he does it so consistently. But look, if I'm being honest, it has to be him for now.
Yeah, I definitely think he's probably on everyone's tips. I think, yeah, definitely Jason Romero. And VPL1, who's been your surprise player?
I just think based on limited minutes, Sonny Brimmer. He hasn't had a lot of minutes to play off the bench, but he just continues to score goals. Look, I'll be honest, Utz, if it goes the way he did last season, obviously he was the top goal scorer. But if I'm hoping he gets more minutes, but for me, for sure, has to be Sonny Brimmer for now. And he might be the wedge that pushes North Geelong into the NPL Victoria season next year.
I don't think he's been a surprise for me. I've seen him last season up close, and I think he's definitely a quality player for me.
Yeah, but he hasn't had a lot of minutes, Utz. Don't forget, he's been playing off the bench.
Yeah, but sometimes playing off the bench helps a player. But I definitely think for me, it's very hard to pick for VPL1 because there's not a lot of viewership or teams putting stuff out there. But I'm trying to think now of a player. I'm still undecided yet on a player in VPL.
Undecided. Surely you got one.
I've got a couple, but I'm still not convinced as yet. I think we'll see him pop up in the next round or two, and we'll know more about it then. But
All right.
I think
I'll
for
hold you that
now
for next week then.
we will know who it is anyway. But look, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you so much for supporting us. Make sure you like and share the stream. Leave us a comments. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Let us know your thoughts on who you think the winners are on the weekend. Drop us a line in the comments. But yeah, thank you for supporting us. But continue to subscribe and let us know your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And if any of the players want to come on and join us, we're more than happy to give them a couple of minutes to chat about the team and themselves. We're more than happy to have any player or coach or anyone in particular that wants to come on. More than happy to. So thank you for another fantastic round of football in NPL and VPL1. We hope your team wins on the weekend. We'll be back next week, same time. Thanks for watching. Have a great week ahead.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, guys.